Hello students, welcome to our lesson. We were discussing about the theory of production and we move on to the next section of our lesson, which is the market structures. So I'm going to discuss with you about the market structures today. So before starting with the lesson, let's check what is the importance of studying about market structures in economics. So, as you know, every firm in the economy is operating with the objective of maximizing their profits. So, how do they calculate their profits? Profit is the difference between the revenue and the cost of production. So, earlier in our lesson, we have looked at our cost of production. And in our previous lessons, in lesson number 2, we learned about demand and supply conditions. And you know, with the quantity and the price, we can derive at the revenue. So the difference between revenue and the cost of production will make you the profits. So depending on which market structure the firm operates in, the profits that the firm can earn will vary based on the features which are there in different market structures. These profits may vary. So that's why it is important to learn about the different characteristics of the market structures which are there in economics. So to start with the market structures, first let's look at what is a market. A market is an arrangement between the buyers and sellers to exchange goods and services for money. So as you know, in economics, the physical existence may not be important for there to be a market. So even the virtual situations can also be considered as a market. But the only important thing is that the buyers and sellers has to come into mutual agreement to purchase and sell goods and services for money. So in a market, you can see there are a lot of firms operate in. So what is a firm? A firm is an economic unit which combines economic resources, process them and produce goods and services to fulfill human needs and wants, and with the objective of maximizing their profits. So if we take a collection of firms which produce a similar kind of products, or else we can refer to it as homogeneous products, will form what is called an industry. So the meaning of an industry is a collection of firms which produce homogeneous products. Then what is a market structure? A market structure is can be termed as various market situations where this exchange of goods and services takes place. So how are we going to identify the differences in these different market structures? Based on which criteria we would classify these market structures? So here we have several criteria which we can use to identify the different market structures. So here it says, based on the number of firms in the industry, we can classify the market structures, as well as the nature of the product which are sold in that market. Also, we can identify the differences in these market structures. And also the existence of barriers to entry and exit from the market, as well as the nature of the competition in that market is also used to classify these different market structures. So using those criteria which I said earlier, we have identified 4 market structures in economics. Those vary from perfect competition to monopoly. So in between the perfect competition and monopoly, you will find monopolistic competition and oligopoly. First, let's move on to the market structure which is called the perfect competition. So here onwards, we will be looking at these different market structures in detail with their features. So first market structure is the perfect competition. So here there are few pictures in this particular slide which says you something about the perfect competition, perfectly competitive market. So as you know, if you take the egg market as an example, either the firm A produces these eggs to the market or firm B produces these eggs to the market, no difference will exist among these two firms because the product they are offering to the market will be similar in almost all aspects. Right? So based on that, we will move on to the definition of the perfect competition. It is a market situation which large number of buyers and sellers which are producing homogeneous products and there are no barriers to entry or the exit to the market is called a perfectly competitive market. So then we have the features of the perfectly competitive market. The first feature is there are very large number of buyers and sellers in this perfectly competitive market. So how much is the number of buyers and sellers? It's an uncountable number. You cannot count and see how many firms are there in this perfectly competitive market. It's a huge number of firms. So what happens if there are a huge number of firms exist in a market? Individual firm will get only a negligible portion of the total market supply because there are very large number of firms producing the same kind of goods to this market. So if that is the case, an individual firm will possess, we can say, either no power in this market. They can't decide the price. They have the amount of influence that they can make into this market conditions will be very minimal, or else we can say that it's negligible because of their size is very small. So due to that, they have to act according to what market says. Not only the number of firms in the market as well as the number of buyers in this market is also very large. So individual buyer will buy only a very small amount of goods from this market. So either one consumer decides to not to buy the product from this market, that will cause no difference to the market. And if that consumer decide, okay, I will demand this product at a lower price, no, he cannot make any influence to this market because he is only demanding a very negligible quantity of the total market demand. So the firms cannot influence the market as well as the buyers cannot influence the market conditions in the perfectly competitive market. So then the next feature is the homogeneous products. What do you mean by the homogeneous products? Homogeneous product is if you take two products, they are almost equal to the other in almost all the aspects. If you take the price, if you take the size, if you take the color, if you take the shape, so all those aspects will be very similar. So if I want to buy a product from firm A, or if I want to buy it from firm B, there is no difference in those two types of products. So that means the two products are perfectly substitutable to each of the others. So which means you have lot of if you are a consumer, you have a lot of options in the market when you take your purchase decisions. Then the next one is the firm is considered as a price taker. What do you mean by a price taker? So as I said in the very first point, there are huge number of firms in this perfectly competitive market. So therefore, an individual firm will have only a negligible portion, negligible share of the total market supply. So if that firm decides to not to supply to the market or else to increase the market supply, there is no difference, because that firm supplies only a very small quantity of the total market supply. So in that situation, do you think that the firm has the power to influence the market? No. If that, and also in the second point we said that the product is a homogeneous one, so there are very close substitutes available in that market and the buyers have lot of choices. So if one firm decides to increase the price of that product, without two words, the consumers will move on to the next firm, because the product is perfectly substitutable and they know that they will get the same utility by consuming either the product A from firm A or product A from firm B. So no difference. The one who increases the price will not have the ability to stay in the market. So that's why it says the firm is a price taker. The firm has to act according to what market says. If market says a particular price for this particular product, the firm has to agree to that price and that firm has to supply the entire quantity that the firm produces at that given price. So they don't have any choice of making their own price in the market if they are operating in the perfectly competitive market. Then the next point is free entrance and exit from the market. So this is also in connection with the first point. As I said, there are huge number of firms in the perfectly competitive market and the firm is quite small in their size, because there are large number of firms in this market and individual firm contributes only to a very small quantity of the market supply and ultimately the firm becomes very small. If the firm is very small in size, the requirement of the initial capital to set up the business will be minimum. So they will not find any difficulty in finding out their initial capital to enter into this market. As well as since the products are homogeneous, no point in doing marketing to increase the sales, because the products are identical to each other. So no price competition can be seen in this perfectly competitive market. So there is no need to incur any marketing cost. So that is also an advantage for a new firm if they tries to enter the market. So as well as there is no need to use of high technology in this market and also there is no license requirement can be seen in this market. So those kinds of restrictions will not be there in a perfectly competitive market. So therefore it is easy for a new firm to enter into this market. And if a firm wants to exit from this market, again, since the firm is small in size, their initial investment is very low and the impact that could be for the firm if they decide to leave the market will be very minimal. Therefore, they can easily exit from this market. And the next point is the perfect knowledge and the information without any cost. If a new firm wants to enter into this market, that particular firm can easily obtain information regarding the price, regarding the demand and supply conditions, the profitability of this market very easily and without spending a cost. So therefore, that is an advantage available for a new firm if they wish to enter a perfectly competitive market. Then the next point is no barriers to factor mobility. So this is in connection with the second point. If all the firms are producing homogeneous products, the resource requirement will be very similar for all the firms. So in that case, the factors can be mobilized among the different firms very easily because they are perfectly suitable either to firm A or firm B or firm C, whichever operates in this particular market structure. Then the next point is all firms will earn only normal profits in the long run. What do you mean by that? So think if a firm is entering into this market. At the initial stages, the firm can earn supernormal profits. As and when they enter into the market, yes, they can have a high demand and therefore will be able to make high profits. But the other firms who are outside the market will see that the particular firm who is in that particular industry will earn supernormal profits, and they are attracted by these supernormal profits. So they also try to get into this market. So once all the firms who are outside the market tries to enter into this market, what happens to the number of firms in the market? Automatically the number of firms will increase. So what happens to the total profits? The total profits will be distributed among all the firms in the market, and the profit attributable to one firm will get reduced. So that's why it says all the firms will be able to earn only normal profits in the long run. Long run in the sense, once all the firms who are outside the market enters into that market. Then the last point is, a perfectly competitive firm's demand curve is perfectly elastic. What is that? Here, there are two demand and supply curves given in this slide. First, the demand curve for the market is given, and the next one, the demand curve of the perfectly competitive firm is given. Now, as I told you when discussing the features, in a perfectly competitive market, there are a large number of or a huge number of firms operating in, and if you take the size of one individual firm, it will be very, very small. So they will supply only a very small portion of the total market supply. And their ability to influence the market is minimal, or else you can say they don't have any ability to influence the market. So what happens ultimately? They have to act according to the market. So here in the first diagram, you are given the market demand and market supply curves, and there you can see an equilibrium price is marked here. So the firm has to offer their products at this equilibrium market price. Unless they offer at this equilibrium price, they will not be able to survive in this market, because if they increase the price without two words, the consumers will shift to another firm. So therefore, the firm has to take the market equilibrium price. That's why it says the firm is a price taker. And what happens if a firm is a price taker? Their demand curve will be a perfectly elastic demand curve, which is parallel to the horizontal axis. So those are the main features of the perfectly competitive market. Then let's move on to the next market structure. which is the exact opposite of the perfectly competitive market. And the name given to that market type is called the monopoly. So since there are few examples for monopolistic industries, you can identify what sort of market structure is this. If you take the Sri Lanka Railway Department, that is the one and only supply of the railway service to the country. If you take the National Water Supply and Drainage Board, that is the one and only supplier of the water to the entire country. And if you take Ceylon Tobacco, that is the only one and only company which supplies cigarettes to the country. Similarly, if you take the Ports Authority or else the Sri Lanka Post, those are the one and only suppliers of that particular service to the country. So, therefore, what would be the definition for the monopoly? It is a market where a single seller supplies a unique product and with high barriers to entry and also exit from the market. So, the market is dominated by a single supplier in monopoly. So, let's look at the features of this monopoly market. The first one is a unique product. So, what do you mean by a unique product? You won't be able to find any substitute for this product. So, if you take the railway services, you can't find a substitute, which means a perfect substitute or a close substitute. It's very difficult to find a perfect substitute for the railway services. As well as if you take the Sri Lanka Ports Authority, it's very hard to find a perfect substitute for that service offered by the Ports Authority. So, here in the monopoly market, you can see only one product, and which is a unique product for the entire market. Then the second one is a single seller. As you know, there is only one firm in this particular market. Then there are strong barriers to entry. Why do we say there are strong barriers to entry? As you know, there is only one supplier in the market. The entire market supply is supplied by the single firm. So, if their production is in huge capacity, as you know, they can enjoy economies of scale, and due to that, they will be able to produce their product at a very low average cost to the market. So, ultimately the price can become very low. So, in that case, if a new firm tries to enter the market, a new firm may not be able to supply the same product at that very low cost to the market, because the new firm is particularly new and they won't be able to enjoy economies of scale until they continue with their operations for a couple of time. So that's why it says it's very hard to enter this market, as well as there can be some barriers exist in this particular market. There can be natural barriers as well as artificial barriers, and if you take this particular market, you can see since the firm is very large in scale, a huge capital requirement can be there, as well as high technological equipments are used, and there can be license requirement. Those kind of barriers can exist in this particular market. So therefore, it's very difficult for a new firm to enter into this market. Then the next point is imperfect information, and the information cannot be obtained without a cost. Since there is only one single firm dominating in this market, that particular firm will keep all the information for its own and will not be giving that information to the outside. So if a new firm want to get those information, no, they won't be able to get that information from the existing firm. Then we can move on to the demand curve of a monopolistic firm. So what can you think about the demand curve? There is only one firm and providing only producing a unique product, and the entire market supply is supplied by this single firm. What can be the status of this demand curve? Here you have the demand curve is a monopolistic firm is an inelastic demand curve. Why do we say it's inelastic? As you know, in a monopolistic market, you can't find close substitutes. So if there are no close substitutes, there are very little choice, or no, at least no choice to the consumers in taking their demand decisions. If they don't want to purchase that particular product available in the market, they don't have any other second option. So whether they like or not, they have to stick to that product. So even the supplier increase the price or decrease the price, the consumers do not have much choice. So that therefore they do not change their demand conditions very much in respect to any price changes by this single firm. So that affects the demand curve and makes this demand curve to a inelastic demand curve in this monopoly market. So those are the features of the monopoly market, and you can see it is the exact opposite of the perfectly competitive market. So I'll be meeting you in my next video, which will be discussing about the next two market structures. So hope to see you all again.